What's up, everybody? So we're going to give this another try. I tried to go live last night and it cut off on us. All right. So let's try this again because Charlie Kirk and Martin Luther King Jr. Had quite a bit in common, leading up to their termination and their demise. Um, a lot of people already knew that, but after Candace Owens recently shared the text message from one of Charlie Kirk's donors, and we've since, for the most part, I believe, allegedly found out or figured out who it is that sent Charlie Kirk this text message. It just increases the number of things that Martin Luther King Jr. and Charlie Kirk both had in common. I do believe that Charlie Kirk and Martin Luther King Jr. cared about the very thing that they were fighting for, but they were being funded or pushed by a quote unquote hidden hand that didn't necessarily care about the same cause. They were just using it as a Trojan horse to further their own cause. That is my belief. Everything I say in this video is alleged. In no way am I saying that Charlie Kirk was the modern day Martin Luther King Jr. That is not what I'm stating, because he wasn't. However, whether you like it or not, the truth is there were several things about what was happening in Charlie Kirk's life, several things that was happening in Martin Luther King's life, and even the way that they were taken out that is far too similar for us to not even speak about. All right. I wanted to go live this morning because many of us are going to be snowed in. And so I figured we could just take this time to sort of hop into something that I began to talk about last night. And since that point, many other people have spoken about some of the things we've talked about in this that we're going to talk about in this video. But there are a lot of other things that people did not cover, right? And so I'm going to kick this video off, this live off, by first stating, please hit the like button if you don't mind. But I also want to kick it off with taking you all back just a few months ago with this video that leaked from Candace Owens' book club, just to sort of set the stage.
My heart aches for the fact that he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics, and they just were like, nope, that is it. He serves us or doesn't serve us, and we want to move on. And so here's a holiday. Bro, if they try to give me a holiday, what is with them giving people a holiday after they kill them? Why is that a thing? You know what I mean? Like, oh, Martin Luther King, what about this holiday? What about this boulevard? Anyways, let me knock it up. Like, they're going to give Charlie Kirk a boulevard. They already did. They did in Israel. They gave him freaking boulevard. It's like, as soon as they give you a boulevard and a holiday, they definitely do. Okay, there's no question. They could do. There's no way. That's like their signature thing. It's like that's what they do. It's the Fed signature. It's how they sign off after they murder you. So like holiday and a boulevard, and it's never on a nice side of town either. Like Charlie Kirk Boulevard is not gonna be a nice side of town. Anyways,
I released this video right here 6 months ago, and it's one of my proudest works. However, this video focused on not so much the incredible work that Martin Luther King Jr. did that most of us already know about. We focused on some other angles that is never really talked about, such as who was funding Martin Luther King Jr., who was against Martin Luther King Jr., right? Who was Martin Luther King Jr. behind closed doors? That was sort of who was surrounding Martin Luther King Jr., who was writing his speeches. What were their values? What was it that they wanted? Did they have their own agendas that were separate from Martin Luther King Jr.? And again, there's a lot of similarities between that and Charlie Kirk. All right. And so let's go ahead and tackle something that many people already know about, and that is the threat, the text message. So I highly doubt that many of you all have not seen this, but just in case you have not seen or heard about this, I'm going to share the clip from Candace's show where she shares about this text message that Charlie Kirk allegedly received shortly before September 10th. And then we're going to speak a little bit about the person that may be behind this text message and tie it to Martin Luther King Jr.
Showed you guys that text thread. I could show you more where Charlie was saying that he's thinking that he wants to invite Candace. Well, also, I can confirm to you today that on September 9th, amongst a smaller pool of TPUSA employees, Charlie sent a text saying, the day before he died, that he wanted to invite me to AmFest. Yeah, no, that wasn't allowed to happen because this Tucker speech wasn't allowed to happen. That speech was disobedient to Israel's aims. I'm going to now read you an unhinged text message that Charlie received, this time from a female Christian donor, Zionist, of course. And as I read this, I want you to keep in mind that this information, once again, is being shared to you from me, not from Charlie's closest friends over at Turning Point USA, who purport to care about what happened to him, purport to want the truth to get out, except not when it comes to the pressure that Charlie was under in the months leading up to his assassination, pressure that was coming from donors. These people, in fact, wouldn't dare utter a bad word about Israel. Tons to say about Candace Owens. They're not going to send any legal letters over to anybody that is pro-Israel. Yeah, it seems that that's the way, right? Not for a single second do they want to betray the Israel narrative. Israel as a friend and ally, not just the United States, but of course to Charlie Kirk until the very end. Now, I'm letting you know that I have copy and pasted this message and sent it to my team and sent it back because I want to make sure that where and who this message came from is not obvious. But this is a real message. Andrew Kovac can confirm it's real. Eric can confirm it's real that Charlie Kirk received this. Let's read this, okay? All of the people that trusted you, Jews and Christians, including me, why would you platform anti-Semites like Candace and Tucker? There are many evangelical Christian Zionists who would never give these people the opportunity to spew their hatred. I'm one of them. You say people are accusing you of being an anti-Semite because you disagree with the Israeli government. Well, what is it exactly that you disagree with? You threatened Jews and Christians with your 30 million followers. Are you kidding? Be very careful, Charlie. You are in violation of the 9th commandment by bearing false witness against your brother Judah. When was the last time you read your Bible, Charlie? I'm coming to you as a believer. Genesis 12:3, Obadiah and many more prophets warn that those who curse Israel will be cursed. Your TPUSA Tampa event was a disaster. Michelle Bachmann was booed, and about 10% walked out on her when she talked about standing with Israel. You brag about how you convinced all these young voters to vote for Trump, but you can't convince them to stand with our Jewish brethren. This is not a joke, Charlie. I'm coming to you as a sister in faith. You have accomplished so much by the hand of the Almighty, but he is going to lift his hand from you. Don't fall for Tucker, Candace, and the rest. The Jews are under attack. God warns us in the last days that he will wipe out the descendants of Edom because they stood by while their brothers, Jacob, Israel, was held in captivity and did nothing. Don't be counted among the Edomites. It will be to your peril, as well as the unfinished work God was going to do through you. But it's in a Bible verse, so he should be like chill with that. No, he wasn't chill with that. He did feel threatened by that. That feels like you're pretending to be a Christian, but you have specific marching orders, and you don't think there's a single reason why Charlie could reasonably critique what Israel is doing after what's been done in Gaza. They've effectively have turned Gaza into a parking lot.
Yeah, because Charlie Kirk, and I don't want to sound like a broken record here, Charlie Kirk was allowed to speak his mind when it came to certain things, and other things he was not allowed to speak his mind about because the people that were funding Charlie Kirk had certain narratives and agendas that they were protecting. And when Charlie Kirk, or if Charlie Kirk was to ever cross that line, he will receive pushback. But this is all the things that we know already, right? So let's move to who is suspected of doing this. And I'm sure it's a name that many of you all have already heard of. It's a lady by the name of Lori Cardoza Moore, if I remember correctly. Let's go over here to who I saw share first, Diligent Denizen, over on Twitter. And I want to let's take a listen to this video and why it is that many of us believe that she is the one who is most likely behind this, because she sounds almost identical to that text message. It says, looks like the TPUSA donor who threatened Charlie Kirk likely was a very angry pro-Israel Lori Cardoza Moore. She describes the very same incident as the text to Charlie Kirk on her TikTok, mad about Tucker Carlson. She also spells GDOD the same way in her text /post.
Carlson with his mocking voice. Carlson with his mocking voice and his mocking laughter. They were horrified by what they saw. I had 3 couples reach out to me who had been to the Turning Point USA conference. And this was in Tampa a couple weeks ago. They called me and said they were horrified by what they saw. Horrified. They saw Tucker Carlson get up and act like another crazy person, talking, condemning Israel, praising Qatar with his mocking voice and his mocking laughter. So Tucker gets up and speaks at this conference in Tampa, TPUSA, and right after him comes Michelle Bachmann. Michelle has 5 minutes to make an argument for why we have to stand with Israel to these young people at TUSA. When she starts talking in that conference about supporting Israel and why America should stand with Israel, the people in the audience start booing her. I spoke with her personally. She said 10% in the room got up and walked out on her. That is shameful. Then Charlie Kirk. This is his event. He's responsible for what people are saying and doing. Does he get up and condemn Tucker or correct Tucker for what he said about Israel and how dangerous Qatar is to us? No. Did Charlie get up and defend Michelle Bachmann? Did he condemn the people that got up and walked out on her, that booed her? Did he say why we stand with Israel, we support Israel? No, he didn't. That tells us everything we need to know.
One who will not deceive is a trustworthy witness, but a spouter of deceptions is a false witness. Proverbs 14:5, misusing scripture to sort of bash someone to supporting a foreign country. Consider this verse when you stand as a witness to those who mislead or intentionally bear false witness. It is a violation of the 9th commandment. All right. For violence against your brother Jacob shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. Right? Descendants of Edom and members of the tribes of Israel will pay a huge price for how they treated their Jewish brethren. A deeper relationship with the G-D of Israel. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear who it was that sent these text messages. But I want to show you all another video from her. Let me show you all something else before we show the parallels between what Charlie Kirk was experiencing and what Martin Luther King also experienced as well. But before we get into that, because I think you all are going to be very intrigued to hear about it, let's move over to, hold on one sec. I got to pull it up. Okay, there it is.
I just
Let's go here. Start over.
Charlie Kirk, are you out of your mind? You will never believe what I just saw. I was watching the Will Cain show on Friday, and Will Cain was interviewing Charlie Kirk with Turning Point USA. But Charlie Kirk had the audacity to say, no, we shouldn't get involved. He cited our involvement with Libya and with Gaddafi, a terrorist regime and a terrorist state. But he's using that as a comparison to why we shouldn't get involved with Israel in defending Israel against Iran. Charlie, what are you thinking? Ladies and gentlemen, there is a movement. Start watching these talking head shows and look at the youngers, the 30-somethings, the 40-somethings, the isolationists. They're now saying we shouldn't be getting involved in this war. Well, you know what? I don't want to be involved in Russia's war, and I don't want to be involved in Ukraine. But when it comes to Israel, I've read my Bible, and I know I better be, because in Genesis 12:3, God told Abram, I will bless those who bless you and curse him who curses you. And he who ignores you, Israel, I will utterly destroy. He told the prophet Obadiah that in the last days, I think we can all agree we're living in the last days. In the last days, he will wipe out the descendants of Edom because they stood by Charlie Kirk while their brothers were held in captivity, Israel, and they did nothing. Who agrees with that philosophy? That's Bannon. That's Tucker Carlson. That's Candace Owens. And now it's Charlie Kirk. You know, Charlie, don't use that as an excuse. Don't use a terrorist rogue state in the Middle East as the excuse why we shouldn't stand with Israel and have Israel's back. Are you out of your mind? Don't you know your Bible, Charlie? God told the prophet Obadiah in the last days he would wipe out the descendants of Edom because they stood by while their brother Jacob, Israel, was held in captivity and they did nothing. Is that what you're going to do, Charlie? You and Tucker and Candace and Steve Bannon, are y'all just going to stand there and let Israel defend herself? Well, don't speak on my behalf. And don't speak on behalf of over 2 billion Christians who agree with me, because you guys are going to sell Israel down the pike. So, ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. I want to hear your comments below. Please send me your thoughts. And I need for you to like and share this. And then go to the social media pages on Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA and ask them to explain themselves. Because you know what? It's the Judeo-Christian values that made our nation great and the nation of Israel great. And if you're not willing to stand with Israel, then don't stand. But don't speak on behalf of me and millions of Christians, billions of Christians around the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you all. Thank you so much for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren in the state of Israel. We are watchmen. We need to stand our watch. We need to protect Israel. And we need to let our Jewish brethren know they're not standing alone. People like Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and even Steve Bannon, they come and they go, but they're not going to endure. Not like the nation of Israel. God bless you.
Can you imagine that? They're placing Charlie Kirk in the same category as Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, when Charlie Kirk was unapologetically a Zionist pretty much up until September 10th. Yet a little bit of deviation, a little bit of critique, a little bit of criticism, they're placing him all the way. They're such radicalists. They're placing this man in the same category with people who 100% disagrees and finds himself against Israel. Who does this woman think that she is? All right. Now, those are 2 videos you all may have already seen from Miss Lori Cardoza Moore, who proclaims to be a Christian, but she's a Christian Zionist, using terms like Judeo-Christian, when we know that Judeo-Christian is an oxymoron, because it just is. But I want to show you all a clip from just a few years ago from Miss Lori Cardoza, a clip that you may have not seen as of yet. And this all of it, but this is her speaking a little bit about the new and growing cross-denominational Christian anti-Semitism that's taking place in our country due to quote-unquote isolationist, right? This is from like 10 years ago.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Focus on Israel.
Yeah, and as we focus on Israel, as she just stated, I want you all to also pay attention to her hands, right? We've spoken many times about symbolism, hand signs, and how our world is about symbols, right? The symbols communicate, hand signs communicate who it is that we're with, who it is that we may be representing. Pay attention to Miss Lori Cardoza Moore's hand as she speaks here. And if anybody can tell me that this is a natural hand sign, of course we know right off top that this is not a natural hand sign, because this is the hand sign we've seen over the past 3.5, 4 years on this channel, right? Can anybody off memory tell me what this hand sign means? Does anybody remember, especially my Patreon members? Does anyone remember what this hand sign means? Share in the comment section.
I'm Lori Cardoza Moore, president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating Christians about their biblical responsibility to the Jewish people. Today, we'll continue to explore the new anti-Semitism that has taken root in the church today. We see many mainline churches not only being neutral toward Israel, but actually coming out against Israel in very anti-Semitic and completely unbiblical ways. As in the past, many churches are propelled by replacement theology, believing that because of their denial of Christ, the Jews have forfeited God's promises, and now those promises have been transferred to the church. Along with churches, global Christian forums are also part of this theological demonology, with the new anti-Semitism against the Jews of the State of Israel. The World Council of Churches, an ecumenical Christian body based in...
Remember this sign right here, the World Council of Churches. This will be relevant later in the video. I see a lot of you all understand what's going on with this lady already. Based on our hand sign, I'm already proud of you all. Let's continue.
In Geneva, and boasting 590 million worshipers, includes Methodists, Lutherans, Catholics, and Protestants, Orthodox Christians, and Copts from Egypt. These groups have in practice declared war against Israel, calling the Jewish state a sin and occupying power.
She still hasn't stopped with the hand sign. She's flashing it the entire interview. That is not a mistake.
And accused Israelis of dehumanizing the Palestinians and called for resistance as a Christian duty. Today, most divestment campaigns against Israel are driven by Christian groups. There are many organizations that brand themselves Christian or moral, but which condemn and vilify Israel, including not only the WCC, but also the Ecumenical Accompaniment Program in Palestine and Israel.
This lady is an agent. And we're going to be able to prove that here in a moment. But this lady is an agent. I wanted to go back 10, 15 years ago to show you all that she's been an agent for years. This didn't just start with Charlie Kirk, right? Anybody that sits with this hand sign. So let's go back here a little bit. Anyone that sits with this hand sign for an extended period of time on a large platform, such as a news network, all right? And we already know certain secret society organizations and their ties to certain countries and their religion. Again, we're on YouTube. I don't want to say too much. If you watched my video about Freemasonry and Aleister Crowley a few months ago when we had our friend Kelvin on, we spoke about certain foreign religions and its similarities to these quote-unquote secret societies. Anyone that sits on a large platform and has their hand like this for an extended period of time, such as a Donald Trump makes his hand sign the entire time. This is not a coincidence. Now let's hear, earlier in her very first video, we heard her giving Charlie Kirk a lot of flack. The second video, she spoke about Charlie Kirk being against the Iran war. Let's listen to what Charlie Kirk said, because she makes it sound as if Charlie Kirk is completely anti-Israel, which he wasn't. She makes it sound as if Charlie Kirk was an anti-Semite, which he wasn't. She makes it seem as if Charlie Kirk was completely uneducated and had no sort of sense of history, which once again wasn't true. You give credit where it's due. This is what Charlie Kirk said about the Iran war, and it makes perfect sense.
This is more Israel pushing for Iran, but is that America's problem? That's maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is, you know what, they were wrong about Iraq, they were wrong about Syria, they were wrong about Afghanistan, they were wrong about the Taliban, they were wrong about Libya, they were wrong about the Arab Spring, they were wrong about Yemen, they were wrong about the Arabian Peninsula, they were wrong about the 9/11 hijackers being Saudi Arabian, but hey, 10 times the charm. This time we're actually right. Yeah, you're gonna have to earn our trust on this one.
That started to create a lot of issues for him. And again, we're going to tie this to Martin Luther King Jr., I promise. This started to create a lot of issues. We already know this. We even had Max Blumenthal, who came out and said that not only was Charlie Kirk pushing against the Iran war, but he was doing it when it was extremely unpopular, so much, in fact, that he went against President Trump in the Oval Office and strongly advised President Trump not to go against Iran, not to bomb Iran, right? And something that people forget about this incident is that supposedly or allegedly when Charlie Kirk did this was the same meeting where Charlie Kirk witnessed an interaction between President Trump and Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, where it communicated to Charlie Kirk that to him it appeared as if President Trump wasn't in control, right? He was almost being punked, or he was almost submissive to Bibi Netanyahu. And Tucker Carlson actually confirmed this when he appeared on Megyn Kelly. Let's hear what he had to say.
Only people, I mean, truly one of the only people to go to the president whom he loved. He loved Donald Trump, like personally as well. And I think the president really loved him in a real way. But he was one of the only people to go to the Oval Office and say, sir, I totally understand and think Iran's really bad, but a war with Iran is not, is something that could really hurt our country. I mean, boy, that was an unpopular position. He didn't need to express it. Oh, of course. And he did it again. He didn't have some weird agenda. He wasn't mad at anybody. He was for his country and he was for doing the right and wise and difficult thing. And he said that. He went to the Oval Office to say that. He took massive abuse from his own donors, which is also something that you don't see people. And he loved his donors. It wasn't a hostile thing, but they had a different view. A lot of them, not all, but a lot. And they expressed it to him in a very intense way. I know because he showed me. And he said, look, I understand your perspective. This is my perspective. And we're going to do what we think is the right thing, the wise thing.
In that way, too, he was the voice of young people. I mean, there are no young people in the country anymore supporting this war and wanting Israel to continue its bombing campaign. That's just the truth. Look at the polls. And he was in touch with them. And even where his own opinion may have differed from their opinion, he felt like he owed it to them to bring their message to the sitting president of the United States. I mean, that's what's been snuffed out.
Well, as he has been, unfortunately, but he was one of the very few people I have met who combined a love for everyone involved with strong views. So again, he was not animated by anything creepy or weird. I mean, you knew him intimately, so you know this is true. If you talk to him off camera, he would say, I really, I love whoever I'm talking about, but I think this is wrong. It's immoral. It's bad for everybody involved, both sides. And he would say that, and he could say that because it was sincere. It was completely sincere, but I cannot overstate the amount of attacks he took privately over this, absolutely for real. And having lived in Washington most of my life and seen people run nonprofits, I've never met one who was willing. Stand up is too strong. He wasn't confrontational, but he would just say, no, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I think this is the right thing. The people we represent, which is mostly young people, they believe this, and I believe it also. It was brave, but loving at the same time. And I'm not sure he made a lot of headway, by the way. I mean, I think he made real enemies in doing that, but his view didn't change. Anyway.
He made enemies while doing it because it wasn't America first, right? It didn't make sense. It's not what Trump exactly ran on. So again, you give credit where it's due. He spoke out against this. Do you all believe that it's a coincidence that Charlie Kirk spoke out against the Iran war shortly before September 10th? Do you find it a coincidence that he was receiving threats right before September 10th? Do you find it a coincidence the way in which everything took place? Well, I don't. I know a lot of us don't already know the answer to that. But the reason why I'm asking a rhetorical question is because when you look at Martin Luther King Jr., there were, many similarities, even down to opposing war. For those of you that don't know, right before right before Martin Luther King Jr. was allegedly assassinated, allegedly pow-powed, he was opposing another war, and it was the Vietnam War. So much, in fact, that he was leading protests and marches and giving speeches against it. And for those of you that don't know, Martin Luther King Jr. was highly advised not to speak out against this war. And this is where many people believe Martin Luther King Jr. went wrong. because that is exactly what he did. But what a lot of people don't know is very few of us have actually heard Martin Luther King speak on his thoughts about the Vietnam War. So let's hear just a little bit and tell me if this sounds any type of familiar as it relates to the reason or the reasons that Martin Luther King Jr. is stating that we should not be getting into another war, that being the Vietnam War. Let's take a listen.
Time has come for America to hear the truth about this tragic war. Now, I've chosen to preach about the war in Vietnam today because I agree with Dante that the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who, in a period of moral crisis, maintain their neutrality. There comes a time when silence is betrayal. The truth of these words is beyond doubt, but the mission to which they call us is a most difficult one. Even when pressed by the demands of inner truth, men do not easily assume the task of opposing their government's policy, especially in time of war. Nor does the human spirit move without great difficulty against all the apathy of conformist thought within one's own bosom. There has never been such a monumental dissent during a war by the American people. Polls reveal that almost 15 million Americans explicitly oppose the war in Vietnam. Additional millions cannot bring themselves around to support it. This reveals that millions have chosen to move beyond the prophesying of smooth patriotism to the high grounds of firm dissent based upon the mandates of conscience and the reading of history. Now, of course, one of the difficulties in speaking out today grows out of the fact that there are those who are seeking to equate dissent with disloyalty. It's a dark day in our nation when high-level authorities will seek to use every method to silence dissent. Something is happening and people are not going to be silent. The truth must be told. And I say that those who are seeking to make it appear that anyone who opposes the war in Vietnam is a fool or a traitor or an enemy of our soldiers is a person who has taken a stand against the best in our tradition.
That's right. A year before Martin Luther King gives this speech, I believe it was in 1967, or was it 19? Yeah, it was 1967. They led the anti-war march in March of 1967, and of course, as we know, Martin Luther King Jr. would be allegedly pow-powed a year later. But listen to the reasons that they were trying to. The government and the pro-war and the neocons were making an argument that you're against this country, that you're pro another country simply for stating that we should not be bombing or getting or placing ourselves into or landing ourselves into another war. It's the same argument that they're making for the Iran situation, particularly late 2025. It's the same exact argument, right? I also find it very interesting that Martin Luther King Jr. gave a speech the day before at something called the Mason Temple, right? As you can see in the top right of this picture, or in the middle top of this picture, it says C.H. Mason. This is the place that Martin Luther King gave a speech the night before he was allegedly pow-powed. For those of you that don't know this speech, in this speech, Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about many of the threats, much like Charlie Kirk the day before, a couple of days before. Candace Owens has shared she said a couple of other people told her that Charlie Kirk was receiving threats. She's released text messages that has corroborated this claim. Charlie Kirk was stating that he felt like they were going to take him out. Charlie Kirk was stating that they were threatening his life. The text message that we listened to early in this video, this live, it sounded very threatening to me. Charlie, quote unquote, Charlie, you need to be careful. What does that even mean? That doesn't sound just like I'm going to take funding from you. Who cares about that? He can get other people to fund him. That sounded like a threat to me. A dangerous threat, not a financial threat, a physical threat. Well, Martin Luther King Jr. was no different. Let's go to this article and read just a little bit of what Mr. Martin Luther King Jr. had to say the day before he was allegedly taken out. All right. Make sure I get this right. Perfect. Now let's go and take a look. It says here, did Martin Luther King predict his own death? All right. This was posted March 26, 2018. 50 years ago, Martin Luther King gave his final speech. Did he conclude by predicting his pow-powing? All right. So let's go down. Let's read a little bit of this. It says, really, the speech was not about the strike. It wasn't mentioned until 11 minutes in, but the struggle and Dr. King's role in it, the final passage looks like prophecy. Quote, we've got some difficult days ahead, end quote, Dr. King told the crowd. But it really doesn't matter to me now because I've been to the mountaintop and I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm so happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. The next day, Dr. King stood on the balcony of his hotel room where he was allegedly pow-powed in his right cheek. The bullet broke his jaw, went through his spinal cord, and unalived him. Now, another interesting thing about this is that for those of you that don't know, let me see if I can pull this up as I share this information. Many of you all will know this already. Some of you are older than me. Many of you are older than me. But this is for those that may not know this. It says findings on MLK assassination. What does this state here? All right, let's make this a little bit bigger. All right. It says Dr. King was unalive by a Remington Peters soft point metal jacketed bullet fired from a high velocity 30-06 rifle. The committee determined that a rifle purchased by James Earl Ray on March 30th, 1968 in Birmingham, Alabama, which was found in front of Canopy's Amusement Company, 424 South Main Street, moments after the assassination, was the type of rifle that could have fired the bullet that unalived Dr. King. Now, would you look at that? So they both were allegedly taken out with a 30-06 rifle. If you don't know, the guy James Earl Ray stated in court, this is public record, James Earl Ray stated in court that he was actually a pawn, which is similar to what the alleged power of JFK said as well, that he was a pawn. Well, what is it that we're believing right now about Mr. Tyler Robinson? That is the narrative around him. Another thing many of you all may or may not know is that Martin Luther King Jr.'s family stated themselves that they believe that the guy who took out Martin Luther King Jr. was a patsy as well. That is the same narrative that's taking place around Charlie Kirk. Another thing that many of you all may or may not know, the alleged 30-06 bullet that allegedly took out Martin Luther King Jr., they said it traveled down his spine and rested somewhere in his body. Do you know what the same narrative is about Charlie Kirk? You will be correct. It's the same exact narrative. They're claiming that he was hit with a 30-06 by a guy on a roof somewhere, and they found the rifle and the bullet that allegedly hit Charlie Kirk connected with him and then traveled through his body and was stuck, or fragments of it was stuck in his body. That sounds almost identical to the Martin Luther King Jr. story. All right. So far we have both of them foreshadowed their own demise. Martin Luther King Jr. did it the night before. Charlie Kirk was warning people the night before. But not only that, I can't verify if this is true or not, but Candace Owens has also stated that, according to her, Charlie Kirk, back in like 2018, was stating that he felt that he was going to pass away or lose his life in the name of TPUSA. Right? They both believe that Martin Luther King Jr.'s family, many of Charlie Kirk's supporters, both believe that the person that's being alleged to have taken out both people are patsies. They both opposed the war right before. That means Charlie Kirk spoke directly to Donald Trump and strongly advised for him not to bomb Iran. He was against the Iran quote unquote war. Many people won't call it a war. I get it. But he was against the act of bombing their quote unquote nuclear site. Martin Luther King Jr., many people say that his biggest mistake right before his demise, quote unquote, was opposing the Vietnam War. They were both giving holidays, right? They were both funded allegedly by people who didn't necessarily align with their beliefs, but they were using them as almost Trojan horses. I just want to give an overview. But there's something else, because I think we can all agree that many people around Charlie Kirk probably did not share many of the same beliefs as him. And I'm not just talking about the donors. I'm saying the way in which Erica Kirk has been behaving, some of the things, the people like putting Ben Shapiro up on AmFest. That's not something Charlie Kirk did before. According to Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk didn't even like Ben Shapiro. Erica Kirk's behaviors haven't been necessarily exactly consistent with that of what Charlie Kirk was doing. Well, it wasn't only Charlie Kirk, but it was also people around Martin Luther King Jr. I want to speak a little bit about a guy named Edward. I want to make sure that I get this right. His name is Edward, I believe it's Edward Carter. And let me see if I can find him. Yes, his name is Dean Edward Carter Sr. This guy he actually teaches at Morehouse. And I spoke a little bit about this in my Martin Luther King documentary bonus edition on Patreon, but obviously many of you all may not have seen that. So let me go and read a little bit of who this guy is, and then we're going to listen to him speak about something that I think you all will find interesting. So let's read a little bit about who this guy is. Meet Dean Lawrence Edward Carter Sr. All right. Founding Dean of the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel. He's a professor. He's also a pastor. Let's read a little bit about this guy. About Dean Lawrence Edward Carter Sr. Dr. Lawrence is a professor and founding dean of the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel at Morehouse College. In 1958, Martin Luther King Jr. privately recruited Lawrence Edward Carter as a 10th grader to come to Morehouse College. 21 years later, he became the first dean of the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel in 1979. Today, he is also a tenured professor of religion and the college archivist and curator at Morehouse College. For 56 years, Carter has studied and worked in 14 American universities, colleges, and professional schools, spoken at over 100 different colleges, universities, and seminaries, and received more than 1,000 speaking engagements from 18 Christian denominations, including Jewish, Islamic, Hindu, and Buddhist communions, and traveled to 38 countries. All right. So let's read something else interesting about this guy that I think you all would find interesting. It says here, it's a long sentence. Since 2010, he has been a member of the American Baptist Historical Society Board of Directors. In September of 2011, he was invited to join the board of advisors for educational professionals at the Fetzer Institute in Kalamazoo, Michigan. On October 9, 2011, at the 125th Annual United Supreme Council, Carter was elevated to 33rd degree of the free and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Southern Jurisdiction, Prince Hall Mason of Atlanta, Georgia. And this guy teaches a plethora of different religions. Now, would you look at that? The guy who came up under Martin Luther King Jr., which shouldn't be that big of a surprise, because if you know anything about Martin Luther King Jr., then you should remember, especially if you've seen the documentary, that Martin Luther King Jr. Actually was a huge, he was surrounded by nothing but Freemasons. All right. He was surrounded by several Freemasons, from a Thurgood Marshall to Abernathy, Robert Abernathy, and the list goes on. I want to play a clip of something that this pastor / professor who came up as a mentor under Martin Luther King Jr., I want to play a clip of what he said in one of his sessions with his students at Morehouse. Take a listen.
Not the wish, the want, or hope of God. You are the will of God.
This same guy, Lawrence Carter, is responsible for teaching many Freemasons that went through Morehouse, that have come through Morehouse, that are currently at Morehouse. And there are even videos out there where these Freemasons that have come through Morehouse are revealing that there are pledges, right? There's a pledge-like process when you go through HBCUs, such as Morehouse, Spelman, Clark University, and the list goes on. I mean, even when you look at the podium that this guy was speaking at, and you look at the emblem or the logo on the podium itself, can somebody just explain to me, what is all of that? What do any of these things mean, right? Especially if you're up there speaking as an expert in theology, right? A pastor, a so-called pastor, because it looks a lot similar to this logo right here, right? The World Council of Churches, Global Ministries. Does this look familiar to anyone? Does this look familiar to anyone? Remember, I said earlier, keep this emblem in mind. What was it that Lori Cardozo Moore was speaking about as she's trying to spread the news that quote unquote anti-Semitism is on the rise? Let's continue. As I said before, more reason to believe that Martin Luther King Jr. and the people that were surrounding Martin Luther King Jr. supported globalism. But there's also another video I want you all to see. I want you all to take a listen to this Lawrence Edward Carter Sr. person here as he sits at a table full of young people, as Lawrence Carter Sr. in this same clip then teaches to these young boys or young men that if you believe that there are only two genders, if you believe the ironclad is that there are only two genders, then you clearly do not understand the human experience in full. You do not understand all of humankind, because there are more than two genders, and we've known this for a while because the human species continues to evolve. This is what this pastor is telling them. Where in the scriptures does it speak anything about evolution? God in the scriptures says that he made male and female, two genders, but this pastor is teaching otherwise. Take a listen.
Yeah, and I think it's so important. I think about my godmother, who is a pastor, senior pastor of a church that she founded, right? And she talks about the struggle of really convincing people she doesn't have to be in a robe. You know, she doesn't have to be in a dress, right, when she preaches, right? Because that's what they say. You don't want to tempt anybody. No, she preaches how she is, and she is the essence of who she is, right, in that preaching moment.
Oh.
Right? She breaks that barrier for me too.
Alumni back in the day, if they'd heard this sermon today, would have come to me on the side and said, "Don't bring him back." Oh yeah, because their standard of chapel worship is the way Friendship Baptist worships and First Congregational, to give you a picture. But you see, today you're coming along, getting your bachelor's degrees in an era when the Eurocentric way of living is under attack, and the rhetoric that is used to convey that is that we're loosening the colonial grip on the Western curriculum, the curriculum of the Western world, which is very Eurocentric. So the seminaries that many of you are going into, the divinity schools, the schools of theology, the faculty are busy divesting the colonialized theology. And people are doing what Tillich is recommending, that the courage to be is the courage to affirm your own identity, who you are. And to just give you one illustration of how difficult that is, that means we're not locked into just two genders. That's the big hurdle that churches have a hard time with that. There are more than just two genders. And if you believe that that is the ironclad law, then what you're revealing is that you really don't have a very deep understanding or knowledge about human nature and the human species. You don't realize how the whole creation is evolving, changing every day, growing up to be something very different. And people, as Dr. King used to say, just want to be free, free to be themselves. And there's where the toxicity comes in, because you have institutional resistance in the church, in the government, and in the universities. It's been going on since the beginning of civilization.
I think that's a really interesting point, Dean, considering in recent news what's been happening in Florida with Governor DeSantis, and I know you mentioned some of the things that happened in news in your sermon, but what's happening in Florida with Governor DeSantis and the education bills that he has
Talk to everybody.
oh, I'm sorry, and the education bills that he has presented.
Mm-hmm. 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 This is what they're pushing. This is what they began to push. The purpose, if no one's seeing the connection here, the purpose of me sharing these clips of people that was around Martin Luther King is to say that the descendants and those that were around Martin Luther King Jr. seem to be pushing things that weren't necessarily in alignment with what Martin Luther King Jr. was pushing when he was here, similar to what's happening with Charlie Kirk. Right? Something else that's interesting is the firings that are taking place. And I definitely would love to play this clip of what happened with this young lady who was fired and the way that they fired her. Again, I'm sure many of you all saw this, but let's take a listen to this together, which I think communicates to us that Turning Point USA is going in a different direction. And it almost seems like self-sabotage, right?
And I mean, Frank, this is kind of wild.
I understand where you're coming from.
I know, and I know us to be here, and
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really content leaving for the day without further documentation, explanation, anything.
I understand, but it's time to go. We're just gonna say today's the last day, and that's what we're gonna operate from.
And there's nothing else y'all are going to offer me or plan to offer me.
No, I'll send you an email about off-boarding instructions that essentially outlines where you can sit to submit your business report, and then detailing the pay and sit out.
And you will receive your year-end bonus from your performance for the year, so that will be in that paycheck too.
Okay. So, I mean,
yeah,
this is crazy.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
No, and I know you're going to keep saying that I understand. Like, I know that.
No, I know.
And I know there's probably no magic string of words that I could piece together to procure some type of answer. But
Yeah.
I think on a surface level, like, I'm not going to walk out of here until I say my piece. Like, I mean, y'all know this. I just worked a series of 80, 90-hour weeks plus for AmFest.
Yeah, I think
I've
it's
had no direction or explanation since we've come back. Our CEO has been assassinated. I've done nothing but bend over backwards for this organization, to the point where I'm wondering if this is a prank.
it's not a prank. I would never do that.
So I'm just trying to understand. And
No, I understand. It's time to.
so do
it's
I
time
get to have a conversation with Dylan? Do I get to have a conversation with Justin or anybody, or
Nope.
no? And there's no explanation as to why I'm going to let go, despite,
Right now, we're leaving all.
you know, and you're going to keep saying a different direction, but I'm trying to understand how I've met multiple times with my.
We're going a different direction with the team, and I have to ask you to leave now.
You have to ask me to leave property?
Yes,
Due to what, Frank?
because we're asking you to leave because you've been terminated and we're not.
But there's no explanation or documentation for this. I've never had one bad review from Dylan. I've never had one issue with the company. I've never done anything unethical. And so I'm sitting here understanding why my entire livelihood is being completely tossed out. I mean, I sat
No,
in this chair.
you're gonna do great things.
No, and I
think your
plan
livelihood-
to.
I don't think your livelihood's being tossed out. I think you're
Well-
very successful.
Well, my paycheck every other week is being tossed out, Frank, with absolutely no warning whatsoever.
I understand. At this time, it's time for you to.
It's time for me to go. Why? Like this is the
because
treatment that Turning Point is offering now.
It's time to go.
Frank, this is crazy.
I understand where you're coming from.
I don't think you do. This feels very heartless. This feels without emotion.
I do understand where you're coming from.
This feels completely without
I
emotion.
understand where you're coming from. But at this time, I have to ask you.
Frank, I'm really not content doing that.
Okay.
Because I know that when I leave there, my credential's not going to get back in, and I'm never going to have the opportunity to speak with somebody at this company as to why I'm being terminated after never having my performance questioned, after never doing anything wrong, after working tirelessly through the death of Charlie. This is wild. And you can, that's completely unsatisfactory. And so I have to come home tonight with no plan, no understanding, asking for clarity multiple weeks in a row. And I'm confused. I sat in your office when that whole GC situation happened. And you
crazy.
said, and I quote, that if you don't get that job, I'm going to personally think that you got screwed over. And now I'm sitting here and I'm getting screwed over in a completely different capacity with no explanation.
Yep, I understand where you're coming from. But at this time,
So there's going to be absolutely no explanation as to why I'm terminated. So when I go to my next job, I can't explain as to why this chapter is closed.
we're going in a different direction.
That's not an explanation, Frank.
It's the explanation we're providing now
Providing from who?
from the organization.
From who, though? Justin, from Dylan,
From the organization. I only speak for the organization. I don't.
So different direction means what? Losing people that bend over backwards for the organization, losing people that would be willing to do anything for the organization, losing people that haven't done anything wrong. Like,
I understand what you're saying, and we're taking on it, but right now it's time for you to go. And so I took the time to say one piece, and now it's time for you to go.
All right. So for those of you, I see people in the comment section asking. For those of you that don't know, that was a clip of a now ex-TPUSA employee who was fired. She thought she was coming in, I believe, to get a promotion or get some sort of bonus. She's been working 80 to 90-hour weeks, helping them raise over $250 million since Charlie Kirk was allegedly taken out. And she actually came into the meeting, and to her surprise, the attorney was present. I believe his name is Frank. And this attorney was actually notifying her that she was being terminated. And even though Arizona is an at-will state, similar to the state I live in, it didn't make a difference. And as somebody who's worked for corporate, and I've been on the side of people, I didn't make the decision, but I've been on the side of watching people get fired. Let me tell you straight up, the way that conversation took place, what happened, in my guess, is they didn't have a reason. They had a reason, but a better way to say that is this employee did nothing wrong. I believe that they're firing people because they don't know who the mole is. They don't know who it is that's leaking information to not only Candace Owens, because that's what I've seen people saying, but other people as well, because it's not only Candace Owens that's been receiving information. So, for example, I just saw somewhere someone was saying, let me see if I can find it, actually. Give me one sec. I saw something. Let's see. Someone stated that yes, here it is by Diligent Denizen. Let me pull it up. One sec. like I said, it's not only Candace Owens, it's other people that's receiving information as well. So let's see what it says here. So it says, just spoke with Turning Point Action employee who says since Charlie Kirk was pow-powed, the organization, quote unquote, operates like North Korea. They shared their experience of being harassed over who they follow or engage with on social media and what kind of content the people they follow share. If they repost or share anything from Candace Owens or anything questioning the official Fed slop narrative, it's a sin against the organization, according to this person. This person says that they were forced pressure to unfollow certain people on social media if Turning Point Management didn't like their post. This sounds against everything Charlie Kirk stood for, the whole prove me wrong thing, for when it comes to free speech. What WTF is happening at Turning Point? I think we may get an interview with this source in X Spaces. Stay tuned. Yeah, and if they get an interview with this person, that means this person would probably be fired because there's no way they're going to still be employed there and interview and talk about this. Yeah. Here's my final question for this live. My final question would be similar to what I had at the end of my Martin Luther King Jr. documentary. And now that I've seen all the similarities between them sort of foreshadowing their own death, them opposing war, both of their alleged, killers being accused of being patsies, both being allegedly taken out with a 30-6, both allegedly having the bullet to travel through their body and getting stuck in their body. And the list goes on. Both being given a holiday, both being funded by people that didn't necessarily agree and just so happened to share the same ethnic and or possibly religious backgrounds that I don't believe is a coincidence. Similar to what I asked about Martin Luther King Jr., I'm going to present this question to you all, which is something that many of you all are already asking as well. You're already asking this question. Why don't the FBI find this suspicious? Is it going to take 20, 30 years for them to release files on Charlie Kirk like they did with Martin Luther King Jr.? Why don't they care about this? If there's a text message of a donor appearing to threaten Charlie Kirk right before everything happened, why? I'm not going to say why aren't you investigating this, because I don't know for a fact if they are or if they are not, but it doesn't appear that you are. It doesn't appear that you care. Allegedly, So, but that's just my perspective. All righty. So those are my thoughts, man. Real quick. I'm going to try to get my Andrew Tate video out either later today or tomorrow, since I have all day. I'm stuck in the house. So shout out to Mickey. What up, Mickey? Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Thanks for standing on truth no matter what. Absolutely. Thanks, man. And thank you so much for the $2 super chat. What do you mean by allegedly taken out? Are you new to the show? Allegedly means exactly what it sounds like. Allegedly. I don't know anything to be a fact. One, I mean allegedly because I don't know if Charlie Kirk was actually pow-powed. I have some separate thoughts about Martin Luther King as well. People got other theories about what may have happened with Charlie Kirk. Even if he was taken out, how do we know it was by a rifle and not by something else? So there's that. So yeah. Thank you so much for the $20. I don't know how much it is in American dollars, but thank you so much for the super chat. They are using religion. Yeah, they are. Heck yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. And Andrew Covert has been spilling the beans to Candace and the dude collabing with Valhalla. Well, maybe he's probably collabing with him too, but also the other guy from Paramount Tactical, Gary, I believe it's his name. He not fired. Sarcasm. Why fire everyone else? They telling on themselves. Yeah, here's actually a great question to end this live with. so we can fire TPUSA employees, which you have every right to do, and you have every right to do it without giving them a reason. But you're willing to fire TPUSA employees that worked extremely hard, 80, 90-hour weeks, supporting Charlie Kirk's mission and his organization. You don't give them a legitimate reason. You treat them like trash. Many of them are reporting that they don't really know you. You don't really know the employees yet. As far as when you're doing interviews, you're speaking about TPUSA and the employees as if you're like a family. Yet you're willing to forgive Tyler Robinson, who didn't ask to be forgiven, who didn't ask for an explanation from you, didn't ask for a speech from you. You're forgiving him for taking out Charlie Kirk, though. Okay. Y'all up in the comment section. Let me know, as always, what you think, man. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace. Oh, yeah. Didi got a pie.
Attitudes and our work ethic become very important in realizing our goals and opening up possibilities. I had lunch a couple of weeks ago with a recent graduate of UCA. And his story is really fascinating. It's one of overcoming homelessness during his time pursuing his degree, first at a community college here in Arkansas, and then finishing his bachelor's degree here at UCA. His narrative ranges from estrangement from family for many years to a hopeful reunion with mother and siblings. His record is one of overcoming odds in a way that I probably could not, and certainly demonstrating levels of tenacity and patience and optimism that I can only marvel at. He wanted to talk with me about his new job and his career path going forward. I really need to be there to learn from him because that's where the real value was.
Everything I say in this video is alleged. Allegedly.
No such thing as a life that is better than yours. Y'all can just repeat after me. I really appreciate it. Alright. No such thing. Come on, you can do better than that. Talk to me. Talk to me. Alright, let's start going. No such thing as a life that's better than yours.
You're worse than the rich white people or the rich white Jews that own these record labels, because they don't even understand these populations. You have a lot closer relationship to these people, and you're leading them to hellfire. You are leading them in the wrong direction in the name of getting rich and famous. How dare you?
Oh yeah, Didi got a podcast.